Welcome, everyone. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are. Welcome to Facebook Live. It is the 1st of February, year 2023. Can you believe it? We are already in the second month of the year. You wouldn't even know. We were just saying Happy New Year to everyone. So it's already been a month into the new year. I know that April has joined, but I don't see her on video, so I'll introduce her, or she may not need an introduction whenever she joins, but oh, there we go. Good evening, April. Thank you so much for joining. And I see Ken as well, and I think Kelly is joining as well, so we should see them soon enough. Okay, I'll start off with introductions. April is here. April has been on the panel for quite a few years and is a psychic and has quite a few modalities of healing under her belt. We have Kelly and Kelly here as well. Good evening, Kelly and Kelly. Kelly and Kelly are have been spiritual teachers for quite a few decades, as well as have primary teaching of Qigong as a modality. So good evening, Kelly and Kelly. And then we have Francesca, who's part of a core group of meditators. Good evening, Francesca. And then Michelle is here. Good evening, Michelle. Thank you for joining. And then Ken is here as well. Thank you for joining, Ken. And then last but not the least, Patricia is here with a question that she was asking right before this Facebook Live started. So I'll let you go, Patricia, because it started with Kelly's suggestion of saying thank you to Archangel, or asking Archangel Michael to take your worries away. Okay, and I'll go tag everyone if you want to ask your question. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Yes, I actually have two questions, it turns out. First one, yes, I followed Kelly's suggestion from I think 2 weeks ago to ask Archangel Michael to help clean up if there's anything stuck under layers and layers that I'm not aware of, to help please let it come out to the surface and help me clean it up. And that a lot of relationship stuff came up, my feeling of loneliness, my wanting to be in a relationship and missing being in a relationship and how I feel. A lot of stuff came through, but 3 nights in a row when I was asking Archangel Michael before I went to bed to help me sort it out, I had very vivid dreams, and each night it was a different man. It's interesting. But so I woke up tired almost, but I really wasn't sure what to make out of it. Because if any specific events from the dreams were for me to concentrate on, or just meaning that that was needed to surface and I needed to let it go. And this is where the second question comes in. So the first one was that a coincidence, or that was how Archangel Michael works? I don't know, just bring something up that I needed to see, but I wasn't sure what to see. Okay, so there was relationship. I was in those relationships. So, but what about the relationships itself, or just to let them go? And the second question is there a difference, or maybe what is the difference between let it go and let it be? Like, if we are present in the present moment and something is happening, when do we let go of things, or when we just let them be as they are? Is that Was that too long?
No, that's fine.
That's really, really good. The second question is a really good question. Let me answer the first one first. Archangel Michael's mission, if you will, is, and one of his primary functions, he has many functions, but one of his primary functions is to clear up dense astral energies. So the residue from past relationships, the residue from ego attachment. This is one of the reasons why actually educating and learning about some of these methodologies is really, really important, because there are subtleties to our energy field and whatnot that we are not always mentally or can be aware of at all times. There's just too much information. So having an awareness that there are hierarchies of light, we have guardian angels, we have spirit guides, we have aspects of our higher selves that are constantly reaching forward to help us, to lift us up. And that is one of Archangel Michael's primary functions and missions here, guiding us on this planet. And yes, so the fatigue that you can feel, like if you're doing this before sleep, that makes total, complete, perfect sense that you would wake up feeling fatigued, because the dense energy has to rise to the surface, so that, as you said, you have very vivid dreams, right? So the information has to come up to the surface so that we can actually observe it to some extent, so that we can then let it go. Now, when do we get to the point?
Well,
Sorry.
I have I don't know if it's a question, but I know when I have dreams like that and I feel tired, it's because you are actually doing a lot of work in your sleep.
Yeah.
So it is a very real thing to wake up tired when you've actually been doing that work in your sleep, because if you aren't able to access that or to process that out during the daytime and you've asked for that help, then at nighttime, that's what'll happen.
That's, yeah.
And I always have, I have certain spirit guides that'll come to me looking like, they always come to me looking like people I know, so that I will pay attention. Like before I ever met you, you always came to me as people I knew.
Yeah.
But I always knew who he was. Like when I met him in person, I knew who he was because his eyes were always the same in the dream. But you're one of the only people that I've ever dreamt about that I've actually met in real life. Usually spirit guides will just come to me as somebody that I will recognize in my conscious, so that I don't just dismiss it as a meaningless thing. For me, sometimes dreams, I consciously look for the symbolism, because there could be, that's where I get the cues sometimes. So if you think back on the dream, like were there things or something stood out to you that's like, here's a clue that you can now process like in the daytime when you're awake, right? So I don't know what you dreamt about, because sometimes it's not always like, I had a dream a few weeks ago that it wasn't about the words. Like this person was talking and I was like, this conversation didn't really have any meaning. And I could hear the message was like, pay attention to what's going on around you. Look at the colors, look at the, the situation, the situation. And then when I woke up, those stayed with me, because the actual conversation didn't really matter. That's just my personal thing. And everybody's different. So I don't know what, what your experience was, or what they're like, because I'll have dreams and they're not always the same. And the message isn't always the same, but I have to pay attention to what, because it's not always the conversation that you're having with the person in the dream. It could be the clues are somewhere else. It's like video games and Easter eggs, if anybody's a gamer.
Yeah, I was just kind of, I didn't know. I knew that came up because after I asked, and each night it was about the different relationship. It was very interesting actually. So I was curious if I'm looking for a specific event or something, some similarities, or it was just random. Was it me? Did I freeze, or was it you guys?
Your internet is a little, it's breaking up a little bit today, but we can still hear you.
Oh, okay. What
Mm,
about Kelly?
well-
Kelly? I lost them.
Oh, they might have froze, yeah.
Yes.
Oh.
Like, is everybody? Nope.
I don't know.
You are now you see better.
Not sure.
Let me-
It's
I
working
can
now,
hear
Kelly
her.
and Kelly.
Yeah,
But
we can hear you. Okay. All
Okay.
right. But everybody's still frozen. That's cute. Okay.
that's interesting. Everyone's frozen for us though. That's weird.
Um. So yeah, if we ask before sleeping for help, for guidance, sleep can feel like, again, you can wake up and you can feel rested but a little fatigued because you've done a lot of work. And oftentimes Archangel Michael will help you dig up things that are stuck. And this is one of the reasons why having this type awareness of this methodology of actually invoking and asking the angelic realms for help is really in our energy field. And there are ways of getting at it that our guardian angels and our spirit guides can help us with, that we can't necessarily consciously comprehend with our mental minds. And I mean, that's been my process when I ask for help before. I'll wake up a little bit more tired, ask for it, or how much,
Going to bed.
yeah, how much help, yeah.
I think Kelly and Kelly are breaking
Ask
up
for it before
too.
going to bed, because sometimes it can be.
Kelly and Kelly, both of you are breaking up as well. Is that correct?
Okay.
Yeah. You're breaking up a little bit for us too.
So we heard one word and then we didn't hear the rest of what was being said.
I thought like out. I like that kid.
Okay, we're gonna leave back and we'll try that. So we'll be right back.
Perfect. Thank you. April, did you want to respond to Patricia's question in the meantime? Thank
Yeah.
you.
So, we kind of talked about this, Patricia. Can you hear me? I'm not breaking up, am I? Because I actually reached out to her this weekend and asked her if she was okay, because I had a feeling something was off with her.
That was
I was
incredible.
actually
That's so
mopping my
incredible.
floor, Patricia. I was mopping my floor and I said, I'm gonna write her. So, whether you asked Archangel Michael, whether you asked Jesus, you asked Metatron, you asked whoever, okay, Mother Mary, what happened is primarily is you put an intention out there that said, hey, help me clear up this stuff. And because you put that intention out there, and especially because you are doing it before you're going to bed, that's exactly what's happening. So our brain actually never shuts off. It continues working when we go to bed. Actually, its favorite time to work is when we go to bed, because all day we're doing things. So when we lay down, the brain says, my turn, right? But then you're intentionally asking before you're going to sleep. So then your brain is actively working on that. That's one of the tricks that they say, is to ask before you go to sleep. So all of those negative feelings were you asked and you received. So he doesn't, like, the angel, I'm saying he, but they don't just magically make it disappear. They bring it up for you and you have to work through those energies those emotions. Now, and that's exactly like what you and I had talked about over the weekend. That's exactly what happened. You asked, they delivered. Really, it's your higher self delivered. Archangel Michael is an extremely powerful angel. He is all about healing and helping they're all with helping with enlightenment. And that's basically what you've been asking for. And I've been asking for the same thing in a different way. So I've also had things come up because I've asked, because I put that intention out there. So when do you deal with something and when do you just let it go? When you can look at a situation, an experience in your life, an event, and not have the pain attached to it. When the pain and the emotional turmoil is not attached to it, and you are sure that you are seeing it. Remember, I talked about seeing it from that centered position, that aligned position, meaning I don't have any ideas of me being of lack, of me being less than, bad, not worthy. So when I can see the event and I'm not out of alignment, then when it comes up, because it will come up, because we don't forget, then you can say, oh, hi, I see you. Oh yeah, we've thought about this 1,000 times. So 1,001, we don't need it. Right? But you have to be in line with it. You have to be okay with it because it will pop up. I have memories that still pop up because I'm human, because our cells have memory. The brain has memory. The brain is like a file cabinet. It files the memory with the emotion, with the picture. But when it comes up, I'm like, what are you doing? No, we're all done with that. But I have worked on it. I have sat with it. I have cried with it. I have healed it. I don't have any lack feelings about myself with it. So when it comes back up, I'm like, no, it's okay. We don't need to go there. Now, there are some times I have to say that you could have an event resurface. And I had this happen to me actually when I started talking on this panel. I had this happen to me, and it was connected to my throat chakra. It was connected to me speaking, because in my childhood, I wasn't allowed to speak. And actually, in many of my lifetimes, I wasn't allowed to speak. So when I had to speak on this panel, it brought up an old situation that I thought I had already dealt with, but it brought it up on a new level. So I had to re-clear it, but I was re-clearing it on a new, deeper level. So,
But how do you know it's the right time? It's like I kind of asked because I wanted to try it, but then after the first night, it's like, was that a coincidence? Am I just making it up? So I'll repeat it again. And then the third night I said, okay, I'm asking again, please, if there's anything left that I need to see, please help me, clear it. But only if you think I'm able to, because I almost was afraid that I'm putting again too much on myself, because for those days I was even during the day a little bit like off because of the amount. So
I have a question for April. So April, when she reviews a past relationship in a dream state, does that mean that she needs to look at that past relationship? And the way you would clear it is you would look at that relationship and see what was the lesson learned during that. What did that signify? And especially the ones that are coming up in your dreams, like I would write it down that let's say person one, right? It may be a coworker, or it may be a coworker 50 years ago or 30 years ago or 20 years ago.
no, there was all my boyfriends, but it was boyfriend, and the husband.
But then look at what did each relationship teach, what lesson, because we were always evolving, right? The contrast was given so that we would evolve. So we need to learn the lesson from that relationship and then move on. Is that correct, April? Our soul
Well-
needs to learn the lesson from that interaction, right?
Yeah, well,
Thank
we
you.
do. So there are some people out there that say, you know, there's no purpose and there's no that. Yes, there is. There's a purpose. We have a purpose. We have a reason that we're here. We have things that we are evolving into. So, and much like Kelly said, dreams are very metaphoric. They're very much metaphoric. So if it wasn't the relationship in particular, then I would look metaphorically. What is the pattern in each one of these relationships? What were the roles? And then most importantly, what I call flipping it is, what is it that I can learn from that? What am I getting out of that? So I went into that relationship. I was quite naive, certainly not where I am today, but who has that made me? How have I grown? How have I evolved? And if I hadn't been in those kinds of relationships, would I be here today in this group on this panel? What are the gifts? Right? So, yes, and dreams are personal, so it's hard for others to interpret
Right.
your meaning, right?
I mean,
If
I
it-
can look, it's just that maybe the general question was, do I look into this or just let it, okay, they came up, they're gone.
Well, you asked, so they came up for a reason. You asked, they came up for a reason to show you some sort of pattern, something you need to learn, something you need to heal and let go. Now, is it the right time? Maybe it is, and perhaps maybe you are asking for more than you can chew. That's between you and your higher self. Now, if you feel like it's too much, then most likely what I would say is you should be reaching out to one of us, because you're asking, so you want to grow, so you should be reaching out to one of us to help you through it.
So that's why you sensed it, because almost like I couldn't.
Because I've been telling you to call me.
I don't have your number. Do I have your number?
I was mopping my floor. I was seriously, and I'm like, I need to write Patricia. Something's going on with Patricia. I got to write her. Just get a hold of me on Messenger. But I agree with what Kelly and Kelly said, and it's right. And yeah,
I would love that. I think,
Beautiful.
but just because you texted me and the minute I saw it, it's almost, I felt like the load was lifted. It was incredible that the fact that I realized that you actually sensed it, that it wasn't just my imagination, that it wasn't just there was actually something very important going on. And
actually, I had just finished talking to Kelly, and then I got up and I went to mop my floor, and you come swooping in. So you should have called me.
how, but
Beautiful.
can you just, before we go to another panel member, which I would love to, but tell me, in what way, how did you sense this? Was it an image or a
No,
feeling?
so I'm not one of those lucky people that get to see things like I see it, but it's different. Like I don't see it like it's a person in front of me. Like I'm not that lucky. But I see it in my mind's eye. I actually sense a lot more. I do see things, but and I feel. So like I said, I went, I was like, okay, I gotta wash my floor. And I literally had the mop in my hand and I was like, Patricia, I need to write her. I need to write her. Something's going on. So it was just a sense. My information comes in on the right side. It was just a sense like something's going on with her. I need to write her.
It
I didn't-
happens with a lot of people. I texted my best friend about the microdosing, like the one Anthony William did one on microdosing, right? brain shot number 20. And she said she had been thinking about me, but it's like, it's not even that she's psychic or anything, but she was thinking about me. So it does happen when you have a close connection with people.
Yeah. So, I mean, I could see you if I would have really sat at that time, I could have actually physically seen what you were doing, but I just felt you more than anything.
That was enough. That was incredible. Thank you for reaching out.
Thank you so much, April. I agree with Patricia. Incredible. Grateful for your input at all times. So let's get back to Kelly and Kelly. And Kelly, if you want to start and finish, because we didn't hear the start or the finish of what you were saying. Thank you for joining back.
Hopefully it's good. I was gonna say, generally, you don't get more than you can handle, like when you're healing anything. That doesn't mean that it doesn't feel over, because if you haven't looked at something, or if you get a lot of information all of a sudden, or it's the first time maybe that you've really asked consciously for help from your guides, like it can feel overwhelming. So it's really important to do something that's grounding for you. Like, you know, it could be dancing, because your mind can take over too and be like, oh, I have to think about this. I have to do whatever. And it's just like to just be in your body with it.
Yeah.
Because your body will process the information and give you the answers if you don't get your mind involved.
Yep.
So generally though, in any healing, we don't get more than we can handle. That's generally how it is. When we have medical events happen, sometimes it's just because we have unprocessed buildup
Yep.
in our body.
Yep.
So
But when you said that when we don't get our mind involved, but it happened in my mind, like the dreams. So it's hard to cut the mind off to process in the body because the dream was in the mind, right?
Yes and no.
yeah, go ahead. You can.
Your awareness is not your mind. Your
No.
awareness is not your brain.
Mhm.
Your awareness is all of your energy. Our body interprets the energy and the information and gives us images. And we have visual cortex, we have centers in our actual physical brain that will interpret the energy and give us visuals. So the processing of your information happens in your entirety of your energy system all at the same time. It's just that when we are in dream time and we're literally in a different dimension, theta, delta waves, that is a completely different dimension. And we are experiencing things viscerally, physically, mentally, emotionally, in order for this is sort of like at the space between ourselves and our higher self in those other spaces of energy. And then our mind interprets it. And our awareness and our personality puts it into a framework that is understandable for us. And oftentimes there are just layers and layers and layers and layers, and then icing and some sprinkles on top of all the information that they experience in the event. And really, it'll feel very real. The way, and again, asking Archangel Michael for help, for support in any situation like this will cause any heavy emotional energy, mental energies, stuck energies to rise to the surface and come out in dream time. Or sometimes what happens for me is like waking. It's almost like having a TV on sometimes going off, where I'll be like, oh yeah, right. And then I'll go back to what I'm doing. And then it'll be like, we're still processing this. Or it's just like, or they'll turn the volume up. It's like, we're still processing this. And it's like, okay, all right. And then you again, this is why having a physical discipline, even a meditation discipline, is really, really good, so that you are used to being able to give yourself space to facilitate and support the processing of the information. And I completely agree with what April was saying in terms of like how you, like, when you let it go or let it be, when something comes up and you can sit with it, you know, reflect over memories, go through memories of a person and not feel any triggers, not feel any attachment, not feel any heaviness in your heart, then you know that you've done an awful lot of work to heal those spaces with that connection. And again, this is one of the reasons why, you know, even though, you know, being a Buddhist, being a meditator, doing Qigong, martial arts, and having this very solid Eastern and Asian lineage, I have also examined other shamanistic paths and other methodologies to understand from multiple angles my own personal experience, and have found that invoking the hierarchies of light and the Western tradition and the Catholic tradition of the angelic orders and whatnot is also, like, just, you know, as real as this chair is beneath me. It's just the way our perceptions interpret things in 3D reality is very different than what they are, because we're all energy first. So that's awesome that you invited Archangel Michael in. There is no limitation on what Archangel Michael can help you with. You'd be surprised. Asking for help goes an awful long way. It's, you know, the same thing, like even in the Tibetan Buddhist tradition, invoking some of the Tibetan Buddhist saints, some of the mantric traditions, or the use of mantras in Tibetan Buddhist tradition, same thing, same concept. It's just in the Western tradition, the use of the I am presence is actually the core element, in how that is used as methodology is how it is in the Western tradition versus the Asian traditions. So
Yeah, and it's also important to remember, like, when you ask your guides for help, because they come from a different dimension, like April was saying, and you were saying. But it is important too, like what April said, is to ask people here for help too, that actually do this work. Because
Yeah.
like, I was just, when you were talking, I was thinking about the dreams that I have sometimes, like some of the symbols, and I'm like, what the F was that? Like, and I'll, you know, and my kids and I'll often sit down and have breakfast. And, you know, if we're all, because the way we all energetically work together is that if I have a weird dream, chances are, you know, everyone else has too, because we're all moving things.
we're all,
So
yeah.
if I discuss my dream with my son, for example, or he discusses his dream with me, because I can sometimes feel what he can't yet, because it's mine. When you're so close to something, you
Yep.
can't always feel what it is that you're trying to let go of or process. And that's why it's important. Like, I'll tell you about, you know, sometimes if I can't feel it, but I feel something, but I can't quite put my finger on it, I'm like, hey, Kelly, here's the dream I had. These are the things that really stand out. And he's really good at, you know,
How much information?
okay,
How much
this,
time you
this,
got?
and this. And I went, there it is. There
Or
it
like,
is. Yeah.
I'll just like
So
bullseye
would
that, bullseye that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Would you recommend to write it down right when you wake up? Because I didn't. They were so, I remember them. So that's, but maybe
Yeah, that's another.
It's a good
Yeah.
tool.
Well, that's the way that I like to jot it down. Like the things that stood out, I write it down, because then I'm not thinking about it, trying to remember it.
Yeah.
Because for me, if I write it out, then I don't have to think about it, and I can just let the information sit. And if I need to go back to my journal and see something, and then usually that helps me process, because I've written it out. I don't have to think about it to hold on to it, and I can just feel it. Then I'm like, okay, whatever I need to get out of this, like, tell me at some point today. And it'll usually happen when I'm not thinking.
Yeah.
It'll just be like, I'm driving home from, you know,
Yeah.
dropping my child off at school. Oh, this is this. I'm like, oh, okay. And that's
And
what I
what
meant
do-
about taking your mind out of it, is when you constantly think about it, you kind of think yourself into a corner.
And
it
would
makes
you
it harder to
suggest
feel.
doing it over the weekend versus weekdays? Because I think even though I was off, it was a lot. So or
Being able
doesn't
to sleep is
matter.
always nice. Being able to wake up without feeling fatigued is always nice. Yeah, maybe be a little bit more directed and specific in using this support system, this energetic support system with Archangel Michael, when you can sleep in
Yeah.
or when you don't have to work the next day, because
Or
that can
ask
be yeah,
for a gentle integration, like, because the more specific you are with what you're asking for, that's what you'll get. And because I know from experience, I was gonna say, oh, don't ask, but sometimes I don't ask and I still get.
yeah.
Because it's just time. So I'm like, well,
And
sometimes they're like, hey.
and your higher self will perfectly understand if you go, okay, tonight before I sleep, I ask for
Yeah.
the least amount of information that will have the least amount of impact, or please allow me to see that information which will have the least amount of impact, or let me sleep through and wake up with a clear image and a clear understanding of what it is that I'm healing and what it is that I'm processing, so that I can rest.
Right, so
This is
be
sort of
more,
one of the things about active participation and actively engaging in the laws of creation and using your own will. We're in a free will zone. The whole point is to understand how you can help yourself. And by supporting yourself and being present in this way, you give yourself even more room to grow and to begin to use the other spaces, such as sleep, to actively participate in your sleep process as well. Because oftentimes, we get triggered and things will come up during the day when we're at work or we're trying to work, and then something will happen and it'll be like, really? I got to function now? Are you serious, universe?
However, there's something to that I want to address too, is that not to be angry with the process.
Yeah.
Because especially when we're tired, we can be like, oh, I didn't want that. And that's where you get caught in your head.
Yep.
And the angrier you are, the more tired you are. And I've learned how to be like, oh, okay. Because sometimes it'll be like 5:30 in the morning that I'm awake. You can attest to it. And I'm like, okay.
It's like, I'm sorry, I didn't do it.
I'm
I didn't do it.
And I have to get up in 2 hours to drive my son to school. And I don't want to be processing at 5:30 in the morning, but that's just what's happening.
Yeah.
And so I just learn how to go with it. Sometimes it's if I have something come up and I can feel particularly in my body, it's like, oh, I just need to cry. Can I cry? What do I need to do to make myself or whatever? And then I can go back to sleep sometimes. Otherwise, sometimes I just get up and I go on about my day and I try to figure it out. And I've learned how not to be angry at the process because your process will develop and be whatever it is. And sometimes
And
because we have to function still, that's the thing. Like we still have to go to work and we have kids and we have all this stuff. And it can be so difficult to be doing this while we have all these other things that need our attention.
but that is the reason why we're here. We're learning how to integrate all of these realities together in our space of our human body, in our energy field, all together at the same time. This is why we're here. This is why being present with ourselves is so important, because yeah, there's a lot of information. Yeah, we're healing, opening up our hearts. It's a lot of work. It's real work. And it's why we've chosen to be here. It's why everyone's chosen to be on this panel, part of this group, because we want to understand this. And it's, people can say, well, it's as simple as being present with yourself and blah, 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 but there's all the nuances, the actual process of experiencing our healing and the journey through that, as you are explaining, Patricia, from your own personal experiences. I'm like, yes, real stuff coming up to the surface and getting out. All right. But I also completely and utterly appreciate how challenging that is to go through and be tired and fatigued from all the processing at night. So again, actively participate in being present with your process as you go to bed at night. Ask for a reduction in the volume of information so that you can rest, so that ask like when you wake up, when I wake up, please give me the thing that I can focus on and that I can work on consciously this day while I'm at work that will not impact or take away from my ability to function.
right, because I definitely
Beautiful.
want to work. And with having all of you here, it's so helpful and credible. But yes, I'm jumping on it. And actually my boss said something to me today that I'm an implementer. And I'm like, I'm an implementer? I guess because I hear, I grab, and I go use it, whatever, you know, April tells me, Apunam, you guys, I just like, even, you know, Michelle suggests I'm just grabbing it because it's like a gift. Oh my God, I asked for it, I'm taking it and I'm using it because that's what it's here,
Beautiful.
right? So thank you.
Thank you, Kelly and Kelly. That was incredible. Thank you for all the input. Grateful for it. One of the things that Patricia is omitting out of this whole thing is that her subconscious mind has had relationships deeply embedded for the past couple of weeks because she's been asking Ken and myself during questions during the group meditations. We even stayed up late this Saturday trying to explain to her. And this whole thing accentuated or exacerbated because Tony Robbins and Sage Robbins had Friday, they had this, they had a 5-day challenge. And on Friday, it was a relationship day, kind of like they focused on relationships and their own relationships. So Ken, do you want to give an input on the conversation that we had and speak to it? Like, I think it's in her subconscious mind, actually. What is reflecting in the dreams is you are dominating relationship, your lack of relationship is dominant in your subconscious mind. And that is reflecting in the dreams. Now all past relationships are showing up. Go ahead, Ken, because we had a conversation on Friday about it. So
Yes,
Patricia,
no.
thank you.
Yes, it is amazing. And I'm actually going through a lot of similar things about relationship. And so, and as April was talking and Kelly and Kelly were talking about Angel Michael, I feel like I talk to Source. And as far as I'm concerned, each and every one of you is an Archangel Michael to me. So it's something where all the subconscious thoughts that were my subconscious thoughts being in relationship, I realized it was all stuff from my inner child, all my inner child stuff. So it's something where now I'm going back and I had to undevelop what I developed and realize that it was just a bunch of lies and illusions and concepts, and they weren't working. It was all fragments of my thinking mind. And to be talking about it and accessing, I want help, I've realized that lots of times I'm going to get a lot of unsettled voices or times in my life that are going on at the same time. And that's what brings on the confusion, the anxiety, the exhaustion. So now, as I'm asking for help, I'm realizing also how codependent I was, because I was always looking outside myself or looking to others to give me what I now know I need to give myself. So, and now this is so clear to me why I'm doing many things on my own. And it's scary. And I'm realizing that I'm actually getting what I've been asking for. But I didn't ask for the fear on the uncomfortability, but I'm realizing that that is part of the process. And that's what I've been trying to deny, avoid, suppress, and really react to that fearful, either child or adolescent, wherever I was at the time, when a lot of the traumas or a lot of the unsettledness, a lot of the things I didn't like came about. So I'm realizing now that when I'm in presence, when I'm in stillness, to really pay attention to the messages that are coming through, they're coming through all my senses. if I allow them. Just allow it. Don't fight it. Don't resist it. So many times, and many times with Patricia, I've told her, you have no idea how much you've helped me. So when you're talking or expressing something, at times I'm having aha moments. And a lot of times, the same thing with both Kelly and April. There's certain things that are being said, and I'm like, okay. So watch out for what you ask for, but then again, don't just let it happen, because in many ways, what we're asking for is going to bring on things that we're unaware of. And those are going to be our experiences. So it's a really amazing how this all works. And it's funny, there was a part of me, because I've been doing a lot of work. I went skiing all day yesterday. Different things happened to me yesterday, and it was so incredible. So today I'm a little tired. But then as soon as I got on the panel, it wasn't more than 2 or 3 minutes where, oh my God, they're talking about what I've been going through or whatnot. So it's just something where it's helping me to realize I am not in control. Just let go and the answers come. So
But do you get dreams, or do you do it during the day? It
Oh,
comes up.
absolutely.
This stuff.
I get dreams when I'm sleeping, and lots of times all these thoughts, I'll have these cognitive dreams while I'm awake. All of a sudden information comes in, and it comes in and it's clear. It's like aha moments, or it's like, oh my God, click, now I understand that. As long as I'm in the stillness, as long as I'm in alignment to, I want help. I really want to understand this. And at times I need to take a break. So, and sometimes the dreams, Patricia, will come that I want to say they're louder, or I'll have more dreams. And sometimes I won't. The information will come in another way. There is no set, to me, for me, there is no set way. And then also what will happen is what I'm going through, again, I'm hearing it in the panel tonight. And then I just pay attention to the people that are coming in during the day. And I listen to what they're talking about. So that's another way I'm in alignment to them, and they're coming to me. So I realize how much I'm creating the people in my life. Different incidences happen. It's no mistake. That's getting more louder and clearer, where I'm trusting more. And the fear, as the fear dissipates and falls apart, those layers just come off naturally. And things just
So
start. to make sense.
difference, do you see clear the difference between let it be and let it go? Like certain things you let go, and certain just let it be and you sit with them? How?
Yes, Patricia. So when I let go and that let myself be, lots of times that's when the uncomfortability will come up. And so listen to my intuition and allow whatever's there that wants to come out. I call that invisible splinters. Lots of times they'll surface. Very, very much what April said. She's washing the floor, all of a sudden you came in. That's her intuition. And she followed through. And then when she called you, you kind of like, wow. And to me, that's
How did you know? I'm here in my little pickle trying to make sense out of everything, and
that's let go of that. That's what to let go of. Don't try to figure it out. Just let
Ellie
it be.
just gave you the answer of how to
Just let
let
it be.
go,
Yeah.
Patricia. He just said that the moment you have no more emotion, and I've told you time and time again, as long as you don't have any emotional charge towards your dad, emotional charge towards your exes, then you've healed. Kelly just said that, right? Then you let go. You don't even have to think that I'm going to let go. It just happens automatically. The moment the emotional charge, you're working on the emotion. What you're working on is the emotion. The memory is in the emotion, the ickiness of when you think of that relationship, what is the ickiness that you experience? Go ahead, Kelly. You were going to say, thank you, Ken.
Thank you, Ken. Beautifully said. Beautifully said. Always a pleasure to witness your process.
Thank you.
I just wanted to add that when we are healing and we wake up feeling fatigue, like the dense energy coming up, it's important to also recognize that feeling in terms of the past relationships that we've had and how that's the kind of energy that our ego will feed into an attachment and feed into a fear-based connection. So the fact that it's coming to the surface is really important to note. And that's when you work at, okay, I am acknowledging that there is this heaviness, but you are not that heaviness. This is the whole point of doing your work and being present with yourself, is to understand that that heaviness is not you, that ego connection is not you. And as what I said earlier, when there's no like, when you don't have to brace for impact, when you think about someone or something, that's when you know you have really moved beyond.
So just since it wasn't, I was tired, but I wasn't really, I thought of that and it didn't brought up other, that sense of lack or missing on, it's just seeing it again just to see goodbye for good.
Yep.
Kind of.
Yep. And the sneaky thing is about this is that it'll be, there won't necessarily be any feeling. And there won't necessarily be any joy or happiness or any like, oh, aha moment. It'll just be like, oh, okay. All right.
And that's okay. Or that's
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. Yes, absolutely. And Kelly had a question.
I did. I'm still feeling out whether or not, because one of my specialties, let's say, is flipping the coin around. Because a lot of times what our ego likes to do is have us fixate on something that it perceives we don't have or that we've wanted. And it says, look, we don't have this. Look over here, look over here, look over here. When it's actually taking you away from what you really need to see over here. It's like, look at the shiny thing. It came to me because I don't actually know the entire context. I'm from what everyone is saying, I think I'm getting the context is that, and you please correct me if I'm wrong, is that you have a desire to be in a relationship or you'd like to be in a relationship with someone. And what I would like you to ponder is that maybe there's a part of you that is already content and quite happy not being in one. Because our ego always wants to try to make us look at something that it perceives we don't have, when actually we are okay with exactly where we are.
and that's what,
And that doesn't mean that you can't have one.
Yep.
Yeah. It doesn't mean that you wouldn't want a relationship or want to be in one, but we can get stuck on the fact that I don't have this thing yet, when actually the work, the inner work that you're doing with yourself, the relationship that you have with yourself now, maybe that's the key to all the dreams that you had, is like looking at those people, those past relationships, and asking yourself, not about those people, the relationship or any codependency you had with that other person. Like, because even with Kelly, like the most important relationship I have is the one with myself. So in a past relationship, look at what kind of relationship did you have with yourself at that time? And look where you are right now. And how much, I'm assuming, because I see you every few weeks, you know, on the panel, talk to you a little bit on Facebook and stuff, that I feel like you have a much better relationship with yourself now than you did like even a week ago, a year ago for sure, 10 years ago, definitely. Right. So sometimes our egos like to go, oh, but I don't have this and I feel so bad about it. But it's like, but do you?
Yeah.
That's
our
always
egos
the-
will use that to
yeah.
distract us from what we actually already have. And
Something
often
to
something to ponder, and oftentimes on the path of a spiritual aspirant or spiritual student who really is doing their work, that contentment with self will be a threat to your ego. And your ego will be like, but we're alone. We're like, we don't have anybody. We need to like go and connect with somebody. When really you're actually, developing that true heart space with yourself and true contentment and happiness with yourself. And you don't actually need a person in your life to complete you. And you realize that and you understand that. So your ego's going, yeah, but that's not fair, because then like, how do we use this against you? We can't,
Oh,
yeah, like what
Yeah.
the heck?
That's
Oh,
actually
I-
exactly what I told her on Friday, is
Yes.
that she has a conditioned pattern that having a family, because she was raised in Poland and raised in a traditional family, that
German and Irish family, yep.
exactly, that white picket fence, the 2 cars in the garage, 2 kids is
Yeah.
like the perfect, and she's stuck with that story. And that she
Yep.
needs to look at that condition pattern and break that condition pattern, that no, it's okay to be alone. It's okay to
Yep.
be okay with myself, right? And the more she's okay with herself, ultimately she will attract somebody else. But
That's right.
first thing is
And
be
just-
okay with yourself.
Yeah. Yep. And the universe will throw somebody at you.
Exactly.
Oh, literally.
Exactly.
No, I love the way you talk, Kelly, because I'm actually seeing it.
Because yeah, I mean, because even though you and I were very strong, like before we met,
Individually, yeah.
but well, also who we are, but that when we met, then it was like that's a whole other ballgame that people you might not think that you may not be ready for, because that person will still reflect at you anything that you still have unhealed.
Yep.
Even if you've done a lot of work, like,
Yep.
because we have friends that are like, oh, but I've done all this work, I'm sure that when I get in a relationship, it's all going to be smooth
It's
sailing."
gonna be bliss and
like,
joy
what?
and rainbows. Yay.
It's not going to be terrible. But you do have to be ready for that.
Because
that it's
two people,
different.
two people
who are
who are
doing their work,
strong, who are doing their work, you'll have the interaction of shadow and ego and heart space amplify anything that you have not looked at.
She bleeds this
yeah.
also into, she bleeds this also, like Patricia, there's a theme that if she has said this before, that I'm here, and I haven't built any relationships. I've been here this long. So you move to the state that you're in. And so there's a judgment there that I've been here X amount of time and I'm not able to build any relationships. So, and then, so when these relationships came up that were codependent, and I'm at this job that's kind of stressful and I haven't built any relationships, I think that's why the archangel thing like was just too much for her, why she's asking, like maybe it's too much. Because it opens this whole story.
Yeah,
But that-
very true.
the dwelling is in the subconscious mind on relationships, April, that I lack something and I want, but it comes from a conditioned pattern, right? The ego is bringing up the conditioned pattern that, hey, you need to have a family life. You need to have that partner, right? Because your father and mother were a family, and that is how it should be, right? We are so conditioned. It is so conditioned within our bones that we can't even say that it is a conditioned pattern that's coming up, that we need a relationship, we need a then everybody at work is showing pictures of, oh, I'm going to the movies with my husband, or I'm going to so-and-so with my partner, or I'm having this fun party with my partner. On the weekend, I'm going on a trip with my partner, right? But that is just a false picture. They don't show how many fights am I having with the partner? How's my partner putting all the toothpaste all over the wash basin, right? They're not doing the dishes. They're not taking out the trash. They're putting all their dirty laundry all over the floor, right? They're not talking about that. They're just talking about the rosy picture, but you're looking at the Photoshop Facebook picture and thinking that people are having a happy life. They're not showing all their misery, right? They're showing all their Hennessy, and they're showing, well, I'm going for drinks with my partner, or I'm going to the movies with my partner. But they're not showing all the ugliness of what it is to be with that partner. Because
They're
I'm
not showing the work either.
Yeah.
sorry,
They're not showing the work either.
exactly.
The work on communication. I mean, yeah, you're absolutely right, Poonam. I mean, and what it really boils down to is any relationship is about connection, and all connection is about connection with self and how that's being reflected outward or not, and whether or not we are actually at peace with our own connection with self or not. And again, like my relationship with Kelly is all based on us understanding that it's about communication first, and it's about honoring our connection and figuring out how to get past the hurdles of talking about those things that are uncomfortable, because they're only uncomfortable because our egos and our fears, which are based in separation, are making them so.
Mhm.
And regardless of,
So I'm thinking about last week when we were trying to do something together, and it was just it was funny because it was just a little glitch, and it was that you were trying to fulfill a promise
Yeah,
to me to get
yeah.
something done for one of our businesses, but he was late. He didn't really have time,
I was tired.
and he didn't communicate with me. And in that moment, and we were both looking at each other like, okay, this isn't working.
It's
Why
like-
is this
I'm
not
just like,
working?
what's going
We're
on?
both kind of grumpy, but you and I don't really argue.
No,
And then I was like, well, I need to process this. I went to go wash dishes, and he's like, hey, I have to go and do my thing. And my daughter came down and she goes, are you and Kelly okay? I'm like, yeah, we're fine. We're just like processing through something and whatever. And she's like, yeah, okay. The vibe was just off, and
yeah,
it's fine. And we just went our separate ways, and
we had our
you know,
days, came home,
and then
it
we
was
came
like,
home, and it was like, oh, it wasn't about the promise,
no,
like you, because I know that you keep your word, but it was about the communication
mhm.
that he did not communicate with
Mhm.
me, that
That
I
that
did
was
not
late, that
have
was
time.
tired, that
I was late. He was tired, blah,
all
blah, blah.
this whole sequence of
And I halted everything, and I was like, nope, this doesn't feel right. We can't do this right now. And he's like, well, I don't know. Like,
but it was also because
but
we,
that's,
what had
you know,
happened is
work.
we'd actually dug up a deeper thing, a
Yes.
deeper layer of stuff that we
Yeah.
needed to heal
like the night before.
the night before.
And then we
it
got
was
tested
just-
the next day.
and we got
Yeah.
tested right away the next day. It's like, all right, off to the races. And
Yeah.
it's like, what the heck's going on? So we came back on, and you know, I completely agreed with her take on it, because I'm going, yeah, that was super weird. I never not communicate. I never like have
Yeah.
trouble, like what the heck was going on? So this is also the other thing, like when you actually have a connection where you can work on your healing, you do heal stuff, and it will push stuff at you, because both of your hearts, when they begin to sync and align, that pushes the barrier on the communication, because you have to get really good at listening, and not just to yourself, but to the other person. And not just, you know, having someone else that just immediately will reflect things back at you.
Yeah,
is-
it's not
is
about
a learning
him being
curve.
right or me being wrong, or
Oh,
vice
yeah, no,
versa. Like,
it's
it's
like-
not about, it's like perception.
Yep.
It's like, what are you feeling? What am I feeling?
Yep.
So it's like, you know, Patricia, what I'm thinking is like, do you wake up every day? I don't think that you do, but we have a choice, right? Every day to wake up and go, oh, my day is filled. What is my day going to be filled with today? Is it going to be filled with joy? Am I going to fill it with joy? Am I going to do things that I love? Maybe I'm going to meet someone different today. I'm going to go for a walk at the park, and like, I'll meet a friend. Like, if you have that, it is hard because we can be jaded as adults, like, and we protect our heart. So we don't let our joy out. And when you let go of enough things where you can let your joy kind of radiate out, and your curiosity, like be curious like you were as a child. Even like right now, you are so curious, you ask the best questions, and you want to know, and you want to go deeper. And so does like everyone else here, obviously, because we're listening. And like, do you do that every day, or just on Wednesdays and just on Fridays, or whenever you do like meditation? Because if you can do that every day for yourself and wake up with that wonder and that curiosity, that makes life worth living.
Mhm.
Like, what is your day like going to be today? I mean, like I've said to you before, and it's interesting that April felt you today, because today I went, oh yeah, I didn't text Patricia like we were talking about a couple weeks ago, just because I've had things to do. So I thought of you too today. I haven't, now I'm talking to you right now. So it's just, if you have that wonder, that curiosity about your own life, and to learn like from other people, it's like that can be such a joyous thing. And I don't know, I was going somewhere with that.
We
And I'm
don't
trailing off.
always need relationships to give that to ourselves, because that space is always dependent on us. When you step out of codependency and you're present with yourself, you step out of codependency not just with other people, but with your own emotional programming and yourself.
Wow, that's important. I just heard this one. Yep. Huge. That
Go to work and
just-
picture yourself sprinkling, glitter everywhere.
like that.
Let me
You
move
know,
on to the
it's
other
stressful.
panelists. Thank you,
Yeah.
Kelly and Kelly. Grateful for the guidance. Michelle, did you
Thank
want to give Patricia some input before you do? I just wanted to let Patricia know she has not responded to my message on Monday. I messaged her exactly about this same topic.
Oh my God. that
She has
probably
not
was
responded. She has not responded to my message. So it's not just April. Even I messaged her because I knew that relationships were on top of mind for her. And I said, I posted a happy faces video of Dr. Joe. Dr. Joe, during walking meditation, I think this was before the pandemic. During walking meditation, he is in the vicinity of the people that are doing the walking meditation. And at the very last, we lay down. And what he does is I think he felt close enough that he would kiss the person on the forehead. And he does that too, whether it's a man or a woman. He just feels, he'll go close to the person and try to get them into heart coherence. Like he does that even now. Like he'll come stand next to you and he'll try to get that person, use his heart to get the other person's. So you'll see him standing, either he'll stand and he'll smile like right next to the person, or he'll go behind the person and then he'll just like try to get his heart coherence going. So that the other person's heart opens. But in that video, he is kissing the person on the forehead. And I wrote to Patricia, the day that you can have love of this kind towards all of humanity, where you can just love unconditionally, is the day that you can have a relationship. And she has not responded. She has not responded.
I read it and I read it. But I read it. I just wanted you to know that I understood what you meant. Absolutely. The only thing is, in that moment, my mind says, well, so I have to do this, but what about everybody else who has relationships and they didn't have to go through this? They just have it.
But
Now,
they're two
I
pain
have-
bodies. They're two pain bodies having a relationship. Do you want
Right.
two pain bodies to have a relationship, Patricia?
No,
Then
not anymore.
How are you saying that those two people are having a relationship? If two
How-
pain bodies are having a relationship, not everybody is Kelly and Kelly, and not everybody is Tony Robbins and Sage Robbins. Not everybody is Eckhart Tolle and Kim Eng. Not everybody is Byron Katie and Stephen Mitchell. Not
That's the
everybody's.
relationship. If I want at some point, that's the one I need to do. But that's why I'm healing, I guess. That's why when I ask Archangel Michael for help, knowing that I would love a relationship, we talked about is what he brought up is the stuff that was weighing me down.
And you need to look in that relationship, in all those past relationships, what could you have done to be perfect, to make that relationship perfect? Like in my ex-husband and my relationship, if I would have stopped judging him, why did he not take out the trash? Why did he not take care of the baby? Why do I have to do all the work? Why do I have to do all the dishes? Why do I have to do all the cooking? Right? I have to do work. I have to go do a full-time job. I have to take it. If I would have stopped all that judgment, I would have still been married to that person. I judged him. My pain body judged him constantly.
I judge them very much so. I
Right.
expect in them to be everything.
So
to be
that's
everything.
that's what we need to heal, is our judgments. And let's go to Michelle. I want to hear from Michelle and Francesca as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Well, sorry. I think I'm gonna cut off after this because I have very little battery on my computer. Just in case I cut off, that's the reason. Yeah, I think you're in a relationship with yourself right now, and that's where you need to be. Because I totally agree with what Kelly said. Your ego is pulling you in the other direction because it wants your attention. And it wants to, don't focus on yourself. You're not complete. You're not worthy. You need someone else in your life to make you to value you. And so you're just finding something else. It's like going shopping, right? Like I want to distract myself. Okay, let's go shopping. Or I want to I feel like eating, an ice cream sundae, right? Because you're anxious about something. And so now what pops up is just, it could be anything. It just happens to be a relationship because you're not in one. But if it was you were in a relationship, it would be about something else. Something else is always going to show up unless you really figure it out. And it's a journey, right? It's just a journey. And you uncovering layer by layer, I was just curious, what was the emotion? Because I don't know anything about really processing dreams or whatever. All I've just learned is that to when you have a dream, to focus on the emotion. So when you were having those dreams about the relationships or past relationships, could you distinguish different emotions depending on the partner? Like was one, oh God, that was such a nice, like almost like tenderness, like you were grateful for it. Like, and then that one you let go, and but I don't know. I mean, I'm just thinking maybe journaling would help you kind of see and discriminate, right? Discern what there was from each of those relationships. And maybe some things you still need to work out and some things you can let go, But you're very, very ambitious, Patricia. You're so ambitious in so many areas. Curious, ambitious, and you want to eat the whole thing, right? I don't want a little piece. No, I want the whole thing. I want to get it now.
And that's where the patient needs to come, because and all of you bring me that patience. Like, this is the process. It's a journey. There are layers. There's different. You gotta just be in it. You can't just okay, grab and give and go away. I'm done.
Check. I've done this. Check. Don't go on. Check. Because it comes back around. You know what I mean? And yeah, absolutely. The social media piece, everybody's like, oh, and that's why I don't really engage too much in posting stuff other than inspire, because I don't want to promote my ego. I don't want to that's not what I'm about, right? I have a relationship. I'm private about there's this kind of sacredness when you're in a relationship. You're working on yourself and you're working on the relationship and you're working and it's like sometimes you're 3 steps forward, 1 step back, 4 steps to, it's not all roses, I know we want this intimacy, but I think the intimacy we're really looking for at the end of the day is with ourselves and our higher power.
I think
That's the intimacy.
for me, I would love in this lifetime as a human experience a different relation, like not the codependent relationships, but the relationships when two people are whole and then just they sharing lifetime experiences and then making everything better, not only for each other, but almost like supporting each other and encouraging each other to serve and to be that gift that they were meant to be. And I think that's what I would like to experience. And then maybe seeing Tony Robbins and Sage talking about it, it's kind of felt like they have this kind of relationship. And here Kelly and Kelly are example, since they joined the panel, I was admiring. It's like I want to have what you have. And not because I'm jealous of it, it's just that this is, I think, I would like to experience still in this lifetime. And maybe not because for the right reason, not because I'm lacking, because I feel like I need to be in a relationship. I don't know, maybe I'm not ready yet. But
But did you hear what Tony Robbins said before he met Sage?
he
He
had the
had
relationship.
he had a horrible divorce, and then he wrote down all the things that he wanted in a relationship, and then he wrote down what does he need to be in that relationship, and he worked on himself.
Right.
That is exactly what Dr. Joe says. Write down what you want in the relationship, and then work on the emotions that'll, if you say, oh, this person is going to be compassionate, then write compassion. Oh, this person is going to be noble, then nobility. And then you become noble.
And
You
become
become,
that.
you become that. First, you become that. And when you become that, you will attract that automatically. Do tuning into new potentials meditation, automatically that person will appear. You'll be walking in the grocery store, they'll just like Kelly and Kelly met. He came to her book signing or something, right? The same thing, you'll be walking in the grocery store, you'll be walking towards your car, you'll see that person and immediately you'll find that person, and that person will be the same. But first work on the emotions that you want, what you want in that relationship. Right on the left side, on the right hand side, work on these emotions and constantly, just like Kelly said, right? Are you joyful every minute of the day? If you want joyful relationship, are you joyful? Do you wake up with joy every day? Do you wake up for a joyful life, right? That's when I brought up the be of service to somebody on Saturday. I mean, on Friday, I said that, right? That be of service to, that brings joy when we are of service. So think of every moment, think that you're of service, the way you speak, the way you say something, right? Am I being of service, or am I contributing to the field, or am I drawing from the field, right? Always contribute to the field. Michelle, do you have anything else?
Very useful tips. Thank you. Yes, those little.
Thank you
Yeah,
so much, Michelle.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I love the fact that you and your husband have an incredible relationship as well, and they're very transparent with each other. She's able to say like how you're feeling, right, Michelle?
Yeah, like when I am Kurt, let's say I'm responding to something, he's starting to talk, and I already, like 34 years together, 36 actually. You kind of know each other's buttons and how they start off and where it's going. And sometimes he's in the middle of a sentence and I'll cut him off in sentence because I'm already projecting on what I think he's going to say. And I'm like, you're right. Like, I think peeling away the ego, like the ability to really say, it's okay, I'm sorry. It's like, I messed up. I was just, and be okay with that. Like, I don't get defensive about it. And I just, now you pointed it out and you're right, and so you kind of keep working at the relationship that way. But I think compassion is such an important, I mean, especially when you come from, it doesn't matter, you're coming from different cultural, different conditioned family backgrounds. So that's just one layer. But when you come from different cultural backgrounds, different religious backgrounds, different family background, I mean, you're adding layer and layer and layer of differences, of different perceptions. The ability to see the other person's perspective is so important, for me at least. It's so important to be able to put yourself in that other person's shoes. Imagine myself, like I imagine myself in what his experiences were, how he grew up, and that helped me accept him more and have compassion, right? And show compassion for that person and not be so judgmental or reactive. That's, I mean, that for me, that's been for me, I think the one thing that sustained me in our relationship. Of course, love and commitment, all of that, but to be able to offer that compassion to another person. And sometimes you're tired and, you know, you want that person to extend the hand a little bit more because of everyday, you know, and there were periods in our relationship that were much more challenging than where we are now, you know, and there was resentment and irritation and frustration. I mean, it's like, you had to work at it, you know, but we didn't bail. We didn't bail on it. You know what I mean? We just kind of like tough, you know, take a step back. And yeah, sometimes there's periods of kind of like separate. Look, Kim and Eckhart, they don't live together all the time. They have their individual spaces and we give each other space. We're not jealous of each other. So we understand that everybody has their interests. I'm sitting here, he's doing something with my son, or he goes to the gym and I say, you know, we kind of like, you know, when I needed to go out and do my thing, he's like steps in, but it wasn't always that way. Sometimes that the load was on me. And we were building a life together. So there was sacrifice involved. So it's like, it's not always a bed of roses. It's a work in process, you know? And if you're growing in the same direction, that's wonderful. I mean, we just happen to have that one common thread that has really kept us together, because when we started the work and with Wayne Dyer and stuff, he really resonated with it. But it could have been the other way. But, you know, and that was just grace.
Beautiful. Thank you, Michelle.
for sharing.
Francesca, you want to wrap this up? Thank you.
Hi. Wow. So everybody kind of, you know, gave excellent tools and all of that beautiful. So I'm going to keep it short. Basically, when I think of relationships, any relationships outside of ourselves is a reflection of the relationship that we have with ourselves. So if you want, you know, outside of yourself to work, you start working on the foundation, which is you. And that foundation is that relationship with you. In relation to, so I'm just, you know, briefly summarizing what I want to share. So building that relationship with yourself, because as within, so without reflects whatever you're experiencing outside of yourself, whether it's at work, whether it's with a partner, whether it's with your child, is a reflection of your subconscious pain, body, egoic state of mind, those patterns of behaviors, thinking, feeling, and so forth that you carry. So ask and you shall receive. And you ask, you know, Archangel Michael, whom I absolutely love because I've been working with him for quite some time now since my surgery, in relation to the physical body in that regards. When you asked before you went to sleep, what your dreams show you, and dreams in general are a manifestation of the subconscious mind, right? So when I wake up from a dream, if I have a dream, the first thing I do is I write it down and I try to remember how I felt within those dreams, right? Because these feelings are the clues of the direction that I need to look and that I need to work on, the things that I need to heal, because those are the things that this beautiful mind, you know, this beautiful archangel is showing you that you need to work on, right? So in relation, so this ties into your next question, which is about, whether the difference between knowing when to deal with it or not. You have to deal with it because you asked, right? And the way I do that is every single day, every single minute of the day. Even if I don't ask, I'm always, part of that relationship building with myself is being in awareness of my thoughts, my feelings. How do I show up, right? What words do I choose to speak, and so forth. So I'm really, as I focus on building that relationship and embodying everything that I've learned, which I'm finding, or what I'm hearing, Patricia, just, I don't know you like really well, like everybody else. But what I've been hearing is, there seem to be like, scattered, like if I were to draw, like the state of consciousness, I'd be like, they would be like a dot, and then there would be a whole bunch of dots, right? And those dots, basically represents your state of consciousness, because, you pull wisdom, you gather wisdom from something over here. Oh my goodness, I'm going to work with that archangel. Oh, I'm going to do what that person said I'm going to do. But at the end, what I'm not seeing is that foundation, that relationship with yourself, your practice. Like, what is your daily practice, right? And how do these external suggestions, even the suggestion for me, whatever, how do they integrate into your foundation, into your practice? What is your practice, right? And your practice is your relationship with yourself. That's what you're building. That's what you're shaping, right?
I do have very, maybe not strict, but I do have practice every day. I wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning, my meditations, I do yoga, I do elements of Qigong that I learned from Kelly and Kelly during workshops, because maybe it is scattered, but I do pick what I like from everyone. Like, I still use certain visualization and meditation that April gave us, the like putting yourself in a dome of light. So I don't do it maybe every day, but I do it enough because I consider them tools. And when something comes up, I pick a tool that seemed to be needed there. But I also do have those foundation ones that I do pretty much every day and I put more and more time for meditations, and something happened with the coherence healing that I started really to be open for more meditations. And I think in the beginning, they were just going very on the surface. My brain was still so active that I said, but the meditation was gone. It's like, did I even was in the presence for a second there? It was just me trying to withstand the time. But now I have more of moments of being in that nothingness, in that blackness, in that unknown, and I love it. And sometimes I'm coming from work and I drive, and I either chant something, some of the mantras that Lakshmi gave us, something comes up and I'm just riding in traffic, chanting mantra, and all of a sudden I'm home. It's like, there was no traffic because it didn't feel like, sitting in the traffic or driving the traffic, because everything, like cars were moving out of my way when I needed to. It's like, it was incredible. So I'm starting to be a little more playful with it, but, choosing consciously that I don't want to suffer my experiences. It's like, I go through certain things, but why suffer? And even with my relationships at work, I'm more of a co-creator, or more of a choose, or someone is with energy and I notice that and I turn it around. So let's say I'll do this and I notice that the office is much lighter lately. much, everybody's laughing more and appreciating each other and saying thank you more. It's like when I started a year ago, today was my anniversary. It was a very different, I was going into that office feeling like I'm going through thick, like physically thick space. Now it's much lighter. It's, so I
And it's
do.
a reflection of your growth, right? Like how far you've come, all of those beautiful, pain bodies that you've dissolved, right? Because your vibration, that's what's showing up outside of you, right? The universe, right? And going back again to that dream, your subconscious mind, basically it's showing you that there is a pattern that of behavior in those relationships that is very common and consistent, and that's the same pattern in the relationship that you have with yourself, that it and that's up to you to do that self-examination in relation to how are you showing up, so going into how did you feel in these dreams, and then examining how are you showing up in these relationships, how are you showing up for yourself in your relationship with yourself, right? Because what's coming up, it's coming up, it's showing you that, okay, these are the things that needs healing, that needs your attention.
I
in that.
actually have something that came up that maybe we can discuss next week or something about that relationship, right? I heard that you don't, even Eckhart Tolle said that you do not have a relationship with yourself, because then that implies that there's two of you. You are. So, like, can we talk about this? How do we understand? Because, each one of you mentioned that the relationship with yourself, but I cannot have a relationship with myself because I'm me. How am I gonna that?
So I understand what you're saying. So remember when Eckhart Tolle is sharing about, that relationship from that level, it's coming from his level and his state of consciousness based on where he's at, right? It's for example, like if I were to show up, fully from where I'm at, people won't understand sometimes what I'm saying, because it's hard for people to, it's harder, like from my own discovery, I realize it's harder for people to use me as an example, or like to follow, or not really to follow, because I'm not even looking for following or any of that stuff. It's just harder for people to practice, what is it? Okay, what am I saying? There is no separation, there is no duality. And that's true in the higher realms. Those are realizations, that we have. That being said, I believe from my own experience, before you get to that level, the relationship with yourself is absolutely imperative, because if you don't have that relationship of trust, that relationship of love, and all of those things that you would like to experience, if you don't have that with yourself, you're not going to experience it outside of you, because what you are is a reflection of what you attract. It's a reflection of what's showing up in your life, right? It's your vibratory field, your vibration that actually manifests.
What about Nettie?
About what?
Nettie. That's saying that I'm not it. That means like everything that comes up, you realize that I'm not it. I'm just am.
Patricia,
Right?
instead of just repeating the word, you
Yeah.
have to get to what Francesca is saying. You have to have a realization, an experience of it. Just don't repeat the word. Just don't say, I'm not it.
Yeah, because it doesn't
Just
mean
saying the word, just saying,
Yeah.
I'm not it. But are you experiencing, just like Lakshmi was saying, right? Are you experiencing that this bottle is me? I'm this bottle and the bottle is me.
I'll give a really good example is, as you guys know, during my mom's death, I had this situation with my family and one of my sisters in particular, right? You know, very controlling and so forth. And, you know, so these are the things that came up for me, even though I worked on healing layers of it in the past, it suddenly came up in my present moment. And I'm like, oh my goodness, this doesn't make sense. I did this work already. But I had deeply rooted subconscious patterns and another level of evolution, for the lack of a better word, to experience that the universe was trying to show me through, you know, by these experiences coming up again. So I remember very clearly probably my biggest shift was, you know, one day my sister was like, you know, just going at me, right? And I remember thinking, you know, I'm not going to respond. I'm just going to sit. And when I feel ready, I'm going to process this. And when I feel ready, and if I'm guided to, then I'm going to, you know, share with her, you know, then I'm going to share a response. But, you know, I waited at least 2 days. And I remember within that 2 days, speaking of, you know, I am that, I am. I remember thinking, you know, the Christ consciousness, I was like, I am, you know, I saw her. I started, you know, reflecting on this whole experience. And I saw that, oh my God, this is the old version of me that's showing up. That's what she was reflecting. I'm like, oh my goodness, she is the old version of me. And even though she thinks that these things that she's telling me is crucifying me, you know, or hurting me, what she's doing is crucifying her own state of consciousness over and over and over again, because it's hurting her. It wasn't hurting me. I didn't have any triggers. I didn't have any need to respond right away or any of that thing. It didn't trigger me. I just sat with it and I just started reflecting. And from that was how I had my second realization of the Christ in relation to how, you know, we crucify ourselves over and over again. And we think that we're doing it to somebody else, but we're not, because what happens when we're harboring those feelings, those thoughts, and those harsh, it becomes cancerous, right? That's how we get cancer. It becomes cancer. That's how the body becomes diseased, right? And that's how we vibrate out of harmony, right? That's the vibratory field. That's our vibration. That's what we're emanating. And that's what people could see. And that's what we're attracting back into our lives. And, you know, I ended up feeling sorry for her because I was like, oh my God, you know, so I went from, you know, I felt bad. And the moment I did that, a huge energetic shift happened in our relationship, right? So, you know, I am that is the one that I use. I am that, I am. You know, I am that with the comma. So I pause, right? Because, you know, I can recognize like, oh my goodness, that was an old version of me. You know, it's no longer who I am because it didn't trigger me the way it would have in the past, where I would just like, you know, type back a response right away from anger, you know. So in other words, I'm meeting it with my egoic state of mind from that matter, right? Matter to matter. Instead, I sat with it and I reflected, and that's kind of what happened. So,
That's nice.
Beautiful.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, that's big.
Thank you so much, Francesca. That was amazing. And I think we are getting to almost 2 hours, so we'll end the session today. And Patricia can bring her questions again next week for sure. Y'all have been incredibly amazing, so humbled. It's such an honor and a privilege. Thank you for choosing your divinity over your humanity and being here for us. Many blessings. Much love. Eternally grateful. Thank you. Have a wonderful evening. Bye.